our top story now, and emergency warnings remain in place across parts of Victoria as the state faces another flood emergency. In Rochester, the Campaspe River has peaked lower than expected, with flood levels this time around not as bad as they were in 2022. Residents along the Goulburn River from Seymour to Murchison have been moved to higher ground. Up to 20 properties have been inundated in and around Seymour.
The water's come from everywhere, so it's very hard to predict.
You know, it's one thing to get the business flooded, but to get your home flooded, that's a whole different scenario.
After 22, it's going to be a changed town because so many people have sold their homes and they won't come back.
A woman in her 70s was rescued after her car was swept away in floodwaters at Elmore last night. It was pure luck that a quick-thinking local man was at the same place when it happened and was able to pull her from the vehicle. Clinging to a tree, Mitch Smith stayed with her until emergency services arrived.
Well, Mitch is here now. Mitch, tell us about the moment you realised that there was someone in the water and in trouble.
Yeah, I was on the way down there and on the phone to my stock agent from McKee-McGregor, and I sort of got down there and there's a bloke stuck in the water in his car, and I sort of got out to tell him that he was a dill for driving through it. Might not have been my exact words, but he was sort of pointing downstream, and I knew something was wrong, and I could see a car floating away, sort of nose down. So I thought something had to be done quickly anyway. It was sinking at a pretty rapid rate. So I decided to quickly call my neighbour because he was the closest. Gave him a bell and told him that I needed him down at the bridge. And then I proceeded to just take my boots off and jump in and make my way to her.
And so you initially found her, I think, just next to her car. How did you get this lady up into the tree?
Yeah, I found her. She'd managed to just get out the window, like not long before I got there, and she was clinging to a tree.
Oh.
And she was sort of losing strength pretty rapidly, and I knew that she wasn't going to be able to hang on for ages. But also knew that if we both sort of got swept away, I sort of wasn't going to be able to save her and myself. And there was a bit of a fork in the tree, and I could sort of leave him a weight off the sort of base of the fork, and sort of was able to push her up and over the fork of the tree there, where I sort of got her comfortable, and then I jumped up behind her and made sure she was doing okay.
And am I right in thinking that you then used a ratchet strap?
Yeah, so then what happened was I knew that she wasn't going to be able to support herself, and I wasn't sure if she was going to go into shock or anything else. So I didn't want her to roll off the tree and then have to try and save her, because I knew that sort of wasn't an option in the water and the pace that it was moving. So I decided to tell her that I'll be back, and I jumped back into the water and sort of got swept downstream a fair distance. And then once I finally made it to the bank, after a pretty rugged sort of swim, I made my way back to the ute. And that's where my neighbour and Gilly were down there. And Gilly had a beaver ratchet strap, so I grabbed that off him. And then I was in my jeans still, and I knew that I wouldn't the swim in my jeans wasn't too great at the start, so I sort of asked him for his shorts. So we done an exchange of pants and jumped back into the water with the ratchet and made my way to her.
Mitch, it sounds like your response was pretty instinctive. And did you at any point fear for your own safety? Like when you got swept away, which was like 300 metres and an enormous amount to try and make your way back to her, were you thinking about yourself at all?
Probably not until I jumped in to get the ratchet strap, because that's when it was, when I could make my way to her, it was a lot easier than making my way from her back to the bank. So once I jumped in and sort of started getting sucked under a few branches and overlying limbs and sort of into trees and whatnot, I thought this might be a bad idea, but I sort of made it to the bank luckily enough, and yeah, got the strap and got back to her, and then sort of lassoed it around her arms and then pulled her back up higher in the tree. So I knew if she did sort of either lose consciousness or strength to sort of fall back, she would sort of be slung anyway, and she could take some pressure off her hands and sort of relax a little bit too and lean on the strap.
And Mitch, you spent an hour waiting with her for emergency services, so it was a pretty hairy time. How did you pass it?
Yeah, I was in the tree for a while, and there was obviously we're sharing the trees with a lot of bugs, spiders, ants, and everything else. So she was. I told her that there's a few on her, and I was sort of sweeping them off, and she said she'd rather not know about it. And we sort of just went on with the conversation and asked her about her family, and and if she had any grandkids or kids, and we sort of just had a bit of a yarn there for a bit, and sort of just kept on reassuring her that it was going to be okay.
And what did she say to you after you were both back on dry land?
She thanked me. She was pretty exhausted. She, once we got her back in the boat, she stayed in the boat for the sort of remaining time that I was there. So I sort of had a couple of quick words to her, and just said, I hope everything's okay, and I sort of got on the road after that.
What you did is pretty bloody heroic.
Yeah.
Do you feel like a hero?
No, not at all. I'd hope if someone was capable of doing it and it was my grandma and nan in the same situation, I would have loved it if someone would have saved them too.
Have you had a chance to have a cleansing ale yet?
Yeah, no, I did have one last night. Gilly called back around with some pizzas and had a beer and had a pizza, and yeah, just sort of reminisced on the situation and how lucky it was.
Sounds very well deserved. Mitch, thanks for your time tonight. Really appreciate it.
No drama.
Deserve the clap. Unbelievable.
Oh, I love it.
Unbelievable.
Extraordinary. It's quite moving, isn't it?
I know. And he's single, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why are you telling me,
Oh,
Sarah?
no, I just thought it was interesting. I might bring that little bit of information if you're in the area.
Good with the ratchet strap as well.
Very good with the ratchet. What is a ratchet strap?
you know,
Is it like
like-
a hockey strap?
Like a
the
stronger
hooky-
version of that. You know, the ones where you sort of pull it through and you can tighten it with a
Yeah,
ratchet?
right. No. I'm no Mitch. That's why I like to have Mitch around.